students, myself Dr. Divya, Assistant Professor at Department of Chemistry, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. So in this session, we will understand what is environmental pollution and the laws that are used to protect the environment from its pollution. So here are the topics. What is a pollution? And the classification of pollutants, the main causes for the pollution that are classified in various forms, and the roots of pollution, how the pollution is taking place, and the environmental management, in where we have some laws that are protecting the environment and managing the pollution. So pollution is nothing but any contaminant which cause adverse effect. It means that changes a lot of things in our environment just because of the presence of that substance or any form of a compound. So it has adverse change in the environment is called as pollution. So this can be a compound like organic compound or gases or any other form of matter. So in that these will contaminate the atmosphere, and not only the atmosphere, other parts of the earth, so that it will be changing the actual natural form. So that is nothing but the pollution, and the contaminant is so called pollutant. So the contaminant is called as pollutant. So as per Environmental Protection Agency in the US has defined this pollution. EPA has defined this pollution as the presence of substance in the environment that, because of its chemical composition or quantity, prevents the functioning of natural processes. So it's omitting or avoiding, creating obstacle for its natural processes, and produces undesirable environmental and health effects. So that is giving out some undesirable effects that are not required for our mankind survival. So these substances which discharge into the surroundings, where they bring out undesirable changes. So these substances are called pollutants, and the process is called pollution. So that is the definition given by Environmental Protection Agency from USA. So pollution is drastically increasing. So rising is nothing but increasing in all the countries due to rise in human activity associated with modern technology. So what is the best example for this modern technology? Industries where we are using a lot of machinery for our daily commodities or other consumables. So for that we are employing machinery, and that is causing pollution for the atmosphere. And population growth. How is population growth affecting? When there is a rise in population growth, the needs will be increasing, and the wants and needs will be increasing, so that we keep on producing more and more consumables or other commodities. So that is how there is an drastic increase in the pollution. So pollution poses health hazards. Health hazards are the diseases, endangers wildlife or the animals living in the forest, and makes the planet unsafe for future human survival. Why are we exploring for another planet just like that of Earth? Because of this pollution that we are unable to sustain in this planet, so we are going to explore the other planets. So how this is making unsafe, this pollution is making unsafe for our survival. So that is our duty to reduce pollution. So classification of pollutants. There are various pollutants that are present in the on the earth, like they according to their disposal procedure or the process that is going on. So the pollutants can be classified as degradable. As the name indicates, it degrades easily. For example, vegetables or any green waste is easily degradable in the earth. So that is forming the degradable pollutant. So slowly degradable or some degradable plastics. Some of the plastics degrade, but on slowly takes long duration for the degradation process. So that comes under slowly degradable pollutants. And the non-degradable are the hazardous substances that contains arsenic, cadmium, lead, and mercury. For example, in electronics, we restrict has restriction. So in electronics, we have restriction on usage of these heavy metals to some extent only. Why? Because these cannot be degraded in the earth, and we keep on using these electronics after disposal. We have to also think about after disposal. So the degradation process has to be modified, or we should get a technology for degradation, or should limit the usage of these heavy metals in any form, like consumables or any of the electrons. So this is an example I am giving you. Like in electronics, we keep on reducing the use of, we always attempt to reduce the use of heavy metals, because after disposal it is a big problem for the environment, pollution. So based on the nature, physical pollutants, for example, heat and noise pollution. Then chemical, based on chemical, it is acids or poisonous gases, H2S gas or any other gases, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, cyanide gases, etc. Then biological nature, pathogenic organisms. So there will be some pathogenic organisms like that causes various diseases. That is nothing but polluting water. Like for example, we get cholera, diarrhea, so on, by polluting the water. So there are some pathogenic organisms that will be polluting water and causing diseases. And geothermal, based on the geothermal nature, sediments are dust. So these also form some pollutants, so that will be polluting the soil, so that the pollution will be increasing. So there are two different types of pollutions, like the roots of pollution. This is nothing but the roots. So what are they? Point source pollutions and non-point source pollution. So what is the point source pollution? Pollution caused from a stationary location or a fixed facility. It is like, for example, industries, the refineries. So there is gases coming out from this. So there is we can locate the position, a place where the pollution is taking place. So the pollutants are discharged, and any single identifiable source is nothing but the single point or the point source pollution. And for example, chemicals coming out of pipes. So from the pipes, industrial water, wastewater is nothing but point source pollution. Oil spillage from ship. So we know if there is an oil spillage like this, we know that it is only from the ship. It cannot be from any other source. So smoke from the factories. These are the simple examples for the point source pollution. Then non-point source pollution. So this is a type of pollution that cannot be easily tracked by its source. It means we cannot know the source of pollution. How? Because for example, we have pollution from many sources, like urban modernization, factories, animal feed, all these mix in some lake. So there we cannot really, and there is an increase in pollution. So we cannot really understand from which source it is very high. So you cannot identify like the point or the source of this pollution. And this type of pollution happens every day in our life, like in our communities also, like from urban area, suburban area, or the animal leftovers or waste, or the domestic leftovers, everything get mixed into the drainage and go to the rivers and lakes. So this comes under non-point source pollution. So common non-point source pollutions are like comes from agriculture waste that produces agriculture waste, forestry, then urban mining, construction. So in the construction also, a lot of waste will be generated and will be thrown into the landfills. And dams, channels, land disposal, salt water intrusion, saltwater intrusion. We have seen in the previous session that in the nearby oceans, if we dig too many wells, there is some probability for that salt water from the ocean to go into the normal fresh water and contaminate. So this we cannot really imagine how it happens when it happens. So this is how a non-point source pollution happens. And city streets are also major non-point source pollution, because there are a lot of waste that is coming from different sources and they mixed up, and during floods or rainy season that will be mixing up with the fresh water or the atmosphere or the ground layers of soils, that causes pollution. So what are the effects of this non-point pollution? So this is very important. Like, this type of pollution kills many animals. Like, for example, there is a plastic thrown in sea or pond or rivers or lakes. So that will be taken in or eaten by some animals. So that is obviously killing animals. So we also have to take care of small plastic materials, are called as microplastics, that has to be degraded properly before they are thrown into the landfills or water storages or the water bodies. So that is one of the example. Then plants in the ocean than point source pollution. So this non-point source pollution, we doesn't even know how it reached the water bodies or the landfills. So that is why we have to take care. And it does not always immediately destroy the habitats. It means, like, it cannot have the effect immediately or kill large amount of life at one time, but eventually in the long run there will be effect on the human survival. So many animals may die from immediate exposure to trash. So there will be some materials, or for example, if there is a wastage that is thrown off reluctantly into the garbages from a pharma company, so that has to be disposed properly. Otherwise, the gases that is evolved from these garbages will be leading to death, even because of the hazardous material that are present. So this is an example for the non-point pollution source. And but do not usually die in large numbers from the same pollution item at the same time. It cannot happen at once, like large people cannot go and breathe at the garbage. So that doesn't really happen. But in due course, there is an effect on the mankind survival because of these non-point source pollution. So, for example, if you say, take a case study, so DDT was a popular pesticide that is being used tremendously during 1940s to the 1970s in the United States of America to control the pesticides or the insecticides affecting the farms, forests and home gardens. So they used to spray like this on the crops or the farms or the gardens that they have, but many people were exposed to this chemical by using it regularly. So when the man is, even the man will be getting exposed even after taking proper PPE, even after wearing proper personal protection. There is always scope for the exposure of these hazardous pesticides. So that is why many ocean animals were exposed in that meantime. And when rain would wash this chemical into storm drains and out of the ocean. So when there is a scope, like when it is washing to the ocean or other water bodies, there is always scope for that that can affect the mankind through drinking water. So in 1972, the EPA banned the usage of this chemical due to increased number of cancer among people and widespread decline in the bird species. So bird species died gradually because of this chemical that is used in the pesticides and insecticides that is being used tremendously during this duration, and therefore EPA agency banned this usage of DDT. So environmental management. So management is very important, like protecting or reduction of pollution through some laws. Reduction of pollution is very important. So management can be defined as the management of interaction and impact of human activities on the natural environment. It is like we have to interact. There are certain meets, annual meets or alumni that happens, wherein the human or the group of people or member interact and also decide on the impact of this pollution on the human activity. So environmental management tries to identify the factors that have a stake on the conflicts that arise between meeting the needs by but protecting the environment. They're like we have to meet the needs of humankind as well as protect the environment. So that is the job of this environmental management. So this management protects public health and safety by establishing procedures to limit or eliminate harmful substances from entering the environment, and including public water systems. It means like there will be some limitations in the usage of any pesticides or insecticides, so that that can be avoided entering into the atmosphere or the public water systems and protect the public health. So every organization in some way affects the environment, which directly affects the public health. For example, we have a pollution control boards. So they all involve in this. They all involve in this environmental management. Like they will be taking care, and we need to take permission from this pollution control board before we establish any industry. So this is the main job of these control boards that will be doing this environment management work. So in brief, environmental management is necessary for environmental planning, which implies the optimal utilization of Earth's resources and preservation of quality of environment. Like we will be utilizing the resources, no doubt we will be utilizing the resources, but still we have to also preserve the quality of this environment for a healthy society, like healthy growth of society. So that is how there should be proper planning and also conservation techniques, so that there will be no harm to the environment. So what are the real components of this environmental management? So there are like environmental perception and public awareness. Awareness is very important. Like before we are throwing in a garbage, the microplastics, like example, microplastics is very much affecting the humans and also animals. So public awareness is very important. For example, if we cut a milk packet, the smaller microplastic will take longer time for the degradation compared to the larger size one. So there is some small techniques that can be utilized so that we can avoid these microplastics going into landfills or the ocean bodies. So environmental education and training. So that is why the training and education is important in knowing what's happening really after the usage of commodities or consumables going into the garbage. So, and resource management and the resources that we have seen in the previous session, like a lot of resources we are using in our daily life. So the management is also very important. Control of environmental degradation and pollution. So this control of pollution is important until unless we have the educational training on this and public awareness, we cannot control the pollution. So environmental impact assessment. So there should be timely assessment that should be happening, so that it will give an understanding of how better we are managing after proper environmental management or the public awareness programs. So why is really this environment management is necessary? Because various for example, various regulations or regulates, the nations have regulations and limits the impact of businesses that have local environmental quality and public health. For example, we have industries. So these industries will be establishing, so that will pollute with this waste that is generated. So there should be some environmental management or the regulations or rules and regulations that will be restricting the usage, or they will have proper guidelines for the disposal of waste. So essentially, environmental management focuses on resource consumption and waste generation. So we are consuming some resources. For example, chemicals also comes under like artificial, like man-made resources. We are consuming that for a product, and we also should have a knowledge of how the waste generation happens and also disposal. So these comes under like why we really require management of this environment. So environmental management system is a framework that helps the organization, like every organization will have this, and it achieves like environmental goals through consistent review, evaluation and improvements of its environmental performance. So when we are having an industry running, we should also have this management system. The QA QC, like QA or the quality assurance, also includes this environmental management system. Like they will be helping for the proper disposal of any wastage that is generated. So this consistent review and evaluation will identify opportunities for improving. So, like if there is some drawbacks or lags, we will be able to understand how it is going, like how we can improve in implementing this environmental performance to the organization. So the EMS itself does not dictate a level of environmental performance that can be achieved. Each organization EMS is tailored to its own individual objectives and targets. So it depends on the organization that is present. So depending on their usage and the waste that is generated, they will be having their rules and regulations. So what are the benefits of this environmental management system? It will improve the environmental performance, enhanced compliance, like it will be complete or the satisfying the needs of the humans and also protecting the environment, and pollution prevention, resource conservation, like we will be conserving or protecting our resources also, new customers or markets, and increased efficiency or reduced cost. So that also increases the efficiency. When we are really reducing the waste that is coming out, it will increase the efficiency, also reduces the cost. And enhanced employee morally and enhanced image with the public, regulators, lenders, investors. All this comes into picture when it is concerned with an industry that is running. So employees awareness on environmental issues and responsibilities. So this also gives the benefits, like each individual will have an awareness that how the disposal can be done and how the waste is generated. So environmental impact assessment is like a process which ensures all environmental matters are taken into account quite early in the project before it is planning. So we have a big plant, manufacturing plant that we need to develop. So the engineer will be given a manufacturing plant for its establishment. So before it is being established, they should have proper guidelines of how it will even have the effect on the environment. So this also comes into picture, like he should have an idea of how he can reduce the pollution to the environment, and it takes into consideration not only technical and economic consideration, but also traditional aspects like impact on the local people and biodiversity. For example, we are having some industries established or the construction of dams, for example. We are sacrificing lands. Why? Because dams are beneficial for our mankind. So we are sacrificing land. So that is how there is an impact. This is an impact on the people life. So the engineer should be very careful, like the dams constructed should have better quality and does not have any impact on the environment. So environmental impact assessment should identify, describe and assess the direct and indirect effects on the project, human beings, flora and fauna, or the plankton that is living, or the animals. Soil, water, air should not get contaminated because of any project that is going on. Then climate and land space should not get affected. When does the climate get affected? Because of carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases. So these are some of the examples. Then material assets, the material and the cultural heritage. So there should not be any damage to this cultural heritage that is present in that particular locality. The interaction between all above factors therefore should have a strong social dimension. So this is how the impact assessment will does its job in protecting the environment, and all these factors has to be considered. So there is always a clearance certificate that to be taken by any industry or the project that is being constructed in the benefit of people. So that is nothing but total environmental impact assessment clearance that has 32 categories like mining, thermal power, for example, river valley, construction like infrastructure, road, highway, ports, harbor, airports, etc. Industries includes very small electroplating or foundry units and certain activities permissible under coastal regulation. So also require this clearance certificate. Environmental clearance certificate is a mandatory for present any projects that undergoes in benefit of people. So that should depict or give an assessment like it is not really affecting the environment, and to some extent we will having proper disposal and also proper degradation procedures for any waste that is generated. So this can also be considered in all the practices, policies and procedures that a facility undertakes in order to comply with local, state or federal environmental legislation. And this means monitoring the release of pollutants to the air, water or water streams, waste streams, resulting environmental degradation. For example, if we take the pollution control board also have mobile vehicles that will be testing the gases that come out from the vehicles. So this is one of the form that we are getting a clearance certificate from the pollution control board, like our vehicle is giving out less carbon dioxide. So that is an example we are giving. Then an environmental management system is set of processes and practices that enable an organization to reduce its environmental impacts and increase its operating efficiency. So whenever there is no problem with the environment or the pollution is very low, the efficiency of the working or the operating of machineries will be better. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.